Okay, so as I asked before, if I'm recording the session for future use and reference and for your own delectation later on. If anyone's going, doesn't want to be recorded, keep your camera off, keep your microphone off. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Terry McCoy. I'm one of the coaches, one of the two coaches in Spartan coaching. Right. For those of you who do not know me, it's still Terry McCoy. So anyway, without further ado, let's crack on. From inner critic to inner coach, working with the inner critic, or how to NLP on the inner critic. Right. So where are we? And this is where people who don't know me get to see how inept I am on using PowerPoint. Okay, so from inner critic to inner coach. The session will go on for about 90 minutes. May go over a little bit longer, who knows? Let's see how much fun we're having. Okay. So, well, first things first, I want to make sure we get a few things straight in our heads. This session is not a substitute for medical advice or therapy. The slides and worksheets are for educational purposes only. Right? Taking part in this session, you acknowledge that this session is being recorded for future and promotional use. If you're suffering from any mental health issues, please consult your doctor before using the process. Any of these processes, by the way. Techniques in this session do not work for everything, for everyone, all the time. When we're practicing these different processes, by the way, don't pick your worst challenge. Don't pick your worst trauma. Pick something that's, if we're talking about the scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most intense, 1 being, it's okay, I can handle it. Pick something about 4 or 5, if that comes up. Okay, right. Practice the processes first. Get good at it. Get familiar with it. Okay. The techniques in this session, as I say, approach these processes with an open mind and curiosity. NLP in general. Approach it with curiosity. See what works. And bottom line, practice, practice, practice. So this is what we're going to go through today. What we're going to find out what the inner critic is, or who the inner critic is, where it comes from. We're going to look at the role of cognitive biases and negative reinforcement in strengthening the inner critic, how it strengthens the inner critic. And I'm going to offer 3 ways to work with it and learn from, and possibly silence. I actually, on reflection, silence the critic is. I wouldn't say that was the right word. I don't think you'll ever silence it. I don't think you'll ever completely get shut of the inner critic. What you can do, which is more practical, is live with it, be able to handle it. Does that make sense? Yeah. Because we all talk to ourselves. We all talk to ourselves. Or actually, to be precise, research shows over 50% of people talk to themselves or in a voice. I don't know what the other 50% is. I'd like to find out actually one time. And then we'll move on from, well, how to move from inner critic to the inner coach. Okay, all happy with that? Fantastic. Okay, so part 1. What is the inner critic? It refers to it's an internal voice that most of us have, and it critiques or judges our actions, our thoughts, and our feelings. And it's mostly negative, because if it wasn't negative, we wouldn't call it the inner critic. it doesn't exist. It's a concept. You know, we talk about it as if it's a thing, but it's not. It's actually a concept, and its use is prevalent in quite a lot of therapies, particularly CBT and what's the other one? Psychodynamic therapy. You know, it's the super ego, if you like, the parent, the judgmental parent that's saying, "Oh, you don't do that, do this." You know, it can present itself as thoughts that reflect our standards in society, the standards we picked up from our parents, and our own personal standards that we've learned, or we may have actually been pressured into, you know, over time by school, media, you name it. There are so many different inputs, if you like, that can affect and strengthen, if you will, the inner critic. As I said before, the inner critic can be considered part of one's psyche, in that it's influenced by the superego. Most of you probably know, if you've done a lot of Richard's courses, it's superego. It's a component of Freudian psychology. Superego, ego-id. As I said earlier, the superego represents the moral standards that we've internalized, that we acquire from our parents, our teachers, society, anyone in authority, really, any authority figure. In personal development, you know, and in coaching, the inner critic involves recognizing its messages, where they came from, and assessing for their truthfulness and usefulness. Now, here's the thing. And I've dropped a couple of these questions in at each time. When you're talking to yourself, when you give yourself a hard time, ask yourself, is this true? And I'm sure most of you have heard that question before in various other forms of personal development, especially as Byron Katie, right? So is it true? But the thing is to also ask is this a fact? And also assess for its usefulness. Is what I'm saying to myself useful? Or is it unuseful? Now, if it's useful, great. It's not the inner critic. It's actually it's actually the inner coach, if you like, if you want to put it that way. But if it's not useful, you could say, well, okay, this is a critical voice. So, okay, is what I'm being told, is what I'm saying to myself useful? Has it got any power, usefulness? So, how we create the inner critic, as I said before, I'm jumping ahead on slides, I suppose here. Parental and authority figures, expectations of society and cultural norms. You know, so for instance, I'll give you a very quick example. Some of you know we will know the example. A couple of years back, good few years back, I was working with someone, and she was an actress, or an actor. Sorry, you know, that's only sex. She was an actor, right? And she travelled around the UK. She was always traveling around the UK, and it was causing a lot of internal conflict with her. And while we were coaching, it came up that one of the beliefs that she had that was holding her back and stopping her, you know, making her feel guilty about doing all this traveling, was that she thought, well, at her age, which was, I think, around about 23, 24, she should be settling down and making roots. And when we explored it, and I asked her where this belief came from, she said it was the parents. Well, my parents, so, you know, by the time you're 23, 24, 25, you should be married and you should have roots, and, you know, you should have a house. And that influenced her right through up to where she was. Once we realized that that wasn't actually it wasn't actually a rule. It was something that she, you know, that was something that she learned to believe, if you like. It was, well, use her words. She said it was like a millstone off my neck, and now she's, you know, the last time I spoke to her, the last time I spoke to her, it was probably about a couple of months ago. And she's in London. She's doing her thing. She's making videos. She's doing some acting. So she's happy. And she's happy in the fact that, no, it's not a hard, it's not a hard and fast rule that you have to put roots down by a certain age. I do apologize there. That's my should say cut there, really, shouldn't I? So again, expectations of society and cultural norms. For instance, in certain well, the UK, for instance, the expectation is that, or it could be if you want, that, well, by the time we're at a certain age, we should be married, we should have a house, we should have a steady job. There are the cultural norms. All these things are input and can create, well, being a critic, if you like, past personal experiences. Another one that it's not so talked about is perfectionism. So you can learn to become a perfectionist, if you like, and if it's not perfect, what happens? We begin to criticize ourselves. We go, "It should be perfect. It should do better. It should do better." Trauma. In trying to avoid further pain, being a critic might use criticism as a form of protective mechanism. Right? I'm sure lots of you done courses with Richard and work with me in coaching can relate to that. Right? The fact is, you've got to ask yourself, is what I'm doing working? Does it work? If the answer is no, you need to do something about it. So just to give you some idea of how the inner critic is created, and we'll we'll take a few steps back. So and again, some of you worked with me before will know this, we experience the world through our senses. Now, our senses process around 11 million pieces of information every single second in parallel. Right? Now, we can't possibly handle all that consciously. So we tend, well, no, we tend to, we do. We leave things out that aren't important to us. Now, oops. As I say, we process the outside world through our senses, our five senses. There are a lot more than five, by the way, but let's stay with these five. What we see, what we hear, what we feel, what we smell, what we taste. Yeah. Again, it's massively cut down. And then there's a second set of filters, if you like. Let's go back to this. Sorry, let's go back to the first set of filters. The first set of filters here, these are outside of our conscious awareness. We're not even aware we're doing this, right? So before we even become conscious of something, we've already deleted and distorted information by our senses, right? Also unconscious, but not so unconscious. Like past personal, we have another set of filters created by past personal experiences, the values and beliefs that we have, time and context, expectations. So, for instance, if you go into a relationship, well, we all do actually, we all go into a relationship with certain expectations, and the other person comes in with certain expectations. And when we meet each other, invariably those expectations are not fully realized, and that's where compromise comes in, right? So what you expect in a particular situation can affect what you say to yourself, the inner critic, if you like. Also, it can affect what you pay attention to, and also attitudes. And just as an extra piece of information here, more recent research suggests that, well, going back to 1957, the general consensus of opinion was our conscious mind and our working memory, we could only keep hold of about between 5 and 9 pieces of information, chunks of information, for a few seconds, around about 30 seconds. More recent research suggests the numbers 4. Some even suggest one, we can repeat before we tend to forget. We can hold it in our short-term memory. So again, it almost stands to reason to that in order for us to be able to process and act in the world, if you like, we have to leave things out. We have to we actually distort information and we generalize information. So to make life manageable, so to speak. So I wanted to quickly go through some of the biases that we're all a party to. There are 68 different types of biases, cognitive biases. I'm not going to go through all 68, but I've just picked a couple that seem to that will possibly resonate with you, and that do have an effect on the inner. They all have an effect on the inner critic, of course, but these more so. Right. So the negativity bias, the tendency to attach more weight to negative experiences or information than positive ones. The inner critic will often tend to focus on the most negative parts of yourself and your performance and discount the positive. I'm sure you know, I know so many people over the years that I've worked with. They've actually done some good things in life. They've actually made some great achievements. And yet, all they concentrate on, all they ever focus on is what they can't do, what they haven't done, or what they should do. Yeah. Again, your past personal experience will, your past personal history, if you like, will dictate how strong that negativity bias is. Confirmation bias. The inner critic looks for information that supports what it knows and dismisses evidence to the contrary. Right. So let's take a belief as an example. If you have a particularly strong belief, right, I say it's almost like a trance, in that we focus on that belief, and we tend to focus on the evidence that supports that belief and discount or dismiss evidence that does not support it. Within, again, depending on what research you want to look at, between 4 and 7 seconds, when we first meet someone, for instance, between 4 and 7 seconds, we've already made, on an unconscious level, we've already made our mind up about this person, what they're like. And from there on, we tend to look for things that confirm our opinion, right? So all or nothing thinking, viewing things in two categories rather than a continuum, rather than a spectrum. For example, I'm a total failure. And this might be something that, for instance, it might be something your inner critic tells you if things really don't go to plan. Right? So it's got to be perfect. If it's not perfect, I'm a failure. I'm sure a lot of you know there's it seems to be a particular trait of people who are suffering from CPTSD or PTSD, that there is this element of perfectionism, and it's either perfect or completely right, or it's wrong. And when we know black and white thinking, when really life is 1,000 shades of grey. No relation to the book. We overgeneralize, taking one negative event and seeing it as a never-ending pattern of defeat. For instance, people who've been in 1 or 2 relationships that haven't gone the way they wanted them to go, for instance, they often say to me, I've often heard so many times before, I'm no good at relationships. I'll never find a relationship. I'll never find anyone right. Now, that's a belief. It's not a fact. It's a belief. Right? It may be based on a number of events, like two examples of failed relationships. But but that phrase, that utterance, if you like, I'm no good at relationships, is an over generalization based on in this case, 2 examples, right? Now, here's the thing. again, people who know me will already know this. When you make those generalizations, especially generalizations that don't work for you, right? The brain doesn't differentiate between past, present, future. As far as your brain's concerned, and the nervous system concerned, no good relationships in the past, no good relationships now, and I'm never going to be good at relationships in the future. Now, and your nervous system acts on that information, acts on as though that's true. You have the feeling of anxiety, you have the feeling of sadness, or whatever you want to call it, the negative feeling there at that moment. Everything always happens in the now. Doesn't matter whether you think about the past or the future. Everything, your nervous system is always in the now. So mental filtering, only considering the negative part of a situation and filtering out the whole positive part. These are all characteristics, or can be characteristics rather, of the inner critic. Catastrophizing. There's another one. When we anticipate the worst, if you like, that can be another example of overgeneralization. Catastrophizing into the future because of some elements of things that have gone on in the past, right? And also enlarging and making those consequences a lot bigger than they might actually be. Personalization, attributing external events to yourself. Well, it's not your fault. You're saying that you're the cause. You're attributing the cause being you, right? And you feel as though you're to blame, and yet they're far beyond your control. To give you an example, for instance, again, if you've been in this position, if you're in a position where you're in a relationship with, I'm going to use the quote unquote narcissistic partner, or even a highly manipulative partner, the gaslighting can go on for so long. They're doing all the gaslighting of you, but you can feel as though you're to blame. Again, one of the more useful questions to ask yourself in that. Okay, do I have evidence for that? What evidence do I have for that? Okay, mind reading, the act of thinking that one knows what another person is thinking, often presuming negative thoughts about oneself without proper evidence. Again, that question, okay, where's the evidence here? What are the facts? For those of you who have to be of a certain age, there's a guy called Joe Friday who used to be in a police detective program in the 60s, and he used to be on overnight. His name was Joe Friday, and his catchphrase was, "Just the facts, man, just the facts." Because whenever you go into a situation, everyone around him would be panicking. There would be a dead body on the floor or something like that, or someone would be murdered, and people would have their opinions. They'd be saying, "Oh, it's him because whatever it might be," and you go, "Just the facts, man." Before they went into the story, just the facts, man. So what evidence have you got for that? Emotional reasoning. I feel this way, so it must be true. Here's the thing about emotional reasoning: the state that we have that during those times, we can feel that we're going to feel that way forever, like depression. From personal and professional experience, when we're in a particular state, good and bad, by the way, a happy state as well, we can feel that it's going to be forever, but no state can last forever. It's impossible. It's a biological impossibility. For it to last for any length of time, it has to be triggered. So again, this would be then using your bad feelings as evidence to prove to yourself that you're either inadequate or you're a failure, right? This is the should statements. These are really strong. These can, the favorite weapon of the inner critic, if you like, very strong list of things that one should and should not do, and then giving yourself a hard time if you don't live up to those rules. Right? Now, this one, and this sort of feeds into one of the exercises that we're going to be doing later. Research shows that the areas involved in speech production, Broca's area, are active not just when we talk out loud, but when we talk to ourselves, when we read and when we're reading or thinking. Our tongue moves in micro muscle movements. And I mean micro muscle movements. And we'll see that in the first exercise. Or we'll have it. So before we go further, this is something I thought that I'd just to sort of round that section off. If you want to get to know you and recognize your fallacies, the biases and fallacies in your thinking, get to know them, get to know what they are. Reflect on your past decisions and consider how you arrived at those decisions. What did you do? What was present when I made that decision? That wasn't a useful decision. Knowing what I know now, what would I do differently? Were there any red flags that I know now that I didn't know then? But actually, you might have known now. You might have known then, rather. You know. But again, reflect. What can I do differently next time? Feedback. Get trusted friends or work with a coach or a therapist to challenge your thoughts and decisions. The unuseful generalizations you make, the things that you leave out about yourself and the world, that really you need to acknowledge. You know, get feedback from several different perspectives, external perspectives, that can highlight what you're not aware of. And when I say feedback, I mean from trusted people, clearly not the if you're in an abusive relationship, clearly not the other person. That goes without saying, but I think I'll say it anyway. And I'm reiterated here actually 5 again, and this is definitely not in the I wouldn't say so anyway. This is outside of narcissistic abuse. I wouldn't go anywhere near that. But consider the opposite point of view. This is known as it's not just a clever name. Consider the opposite strategy, and it can reduce the impact of confirmation bias. In the cases of not well, I'll put the disclaimer here, right? In the case of emotional and narcissistic abuse, not from the abuser. I don't, we're not particularly useful to get their point of view. We're talking about a real case of domestic violence, for instance. Right? Consider your emotional state. Mindfulness practices can help recognize when you're feeling emotionally dysregulated. Some very, very easy mindfulness, basic mindfulness practices we can go through if I've got time. And the 7th one, continue to learn. Always be learning. That's my mantra. Always be learning. Find out. I wanted to talk about, well, as I said in the blurb that I sent out, negative reinforcement. The process where the removal of an unpleasant stimulus following behavior increases the likelihood of that behavior happening in the future. So if someone's giving you let's be blunt, if someone's giving you a hard time, and as a result of the hard time you indulge in a particular behavior, right, then you might carry on that behavior knowing that, okay, if I keep doing this, I'm not going to get shouted at, I'm not going to get argued, I'm not going to get abused, I'm not going to get. Is this making sense so far? Yeah. So when applied to the inner critic, this concept can help you explain how internal dialogue can be entrenched and self-perpetuating. The greatest example is like walking on eggshells. If you've been in a partnership or a relationship where you find yourself continually walking on eggshells, you're altering your behavior, you're adapting your behavior to make sure that whatever the negative consequence is doesn't happen. Okay, so we're going to go three ways. Well, at least three ways. I'm going to do is a lot more. We've got time. But before I do, I'm doing a quick question. Quick question, sir. Any burning questions? Anyone got any? No? Simon.
Yeah, I have a question. Being being in a relationship where I consider my partner being a narcissist makes me think about what I contribute to the situation.
Mm-hmm.
So they can play me out or gaslight me or, my trauma that I had in the past and find the reason there. So you guys actually are like, this is an unhealthy situation. Just go out and this like it is fixed. My understanding, and I have two questions actually. The thinking about how do I contribute, is that part of the inner critic? The
Well,
question,
well, it
yeah.
not go on. It depends. For me, it depends on what effect it has on you. If you're looking at it analytically and saying, okay, well, this is the relationship. I'll use it again. Use the word narcissistic because I think it's overused. I think there's just an awful lot of people who are highly manipulative and just cruel, basically.
Mhm.
So this is the relationship. Think of it as a dance, right? Yeah. Now, if you look at it from an analytical point of view and saying, okay, well, how am I contributing to this? What where's my responsibility? When I say responsibility, I don't mean fault. I mean, okay, if I take responsibility for my behavior, like what am I doing that adds to this? Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yeah. Did that answer your question?
Like,
Is that what?
getting to the conclusion that I don't take responsibility for my own well-being, that I don't care for myself enough, that I'm not independent enough, that I'm focusing on them and not on me and my
So
life. If I come to this conclusion, then it is not the inner critic, it's just analytic thinking. But
yeah, in that case.
if it would depress me, like I'm going like, oh, again, and I never do I, that would
That's
be
it. Yeah,
rather, yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Or you're always, you always get yourself in these relationships. You know what? You're not worth. You're just not worth going in a decent relationship. Oh, it's your fault. You should be more, whatever it might be. Who knows? Right? That is the inner critic. The example of the inner critic. But if you if you step back, and it's part of the coaching process, as far as I'm concerned, you step back and okay, all right, looking back, what would you do differently next time? What what is it you're doing that attracts, or you could be doing that attracts these type of people? Does that make sense?
Perfect.
Because
Yeah, thank you.
as we know, that type of person, should we say, they can almost sniff people out. You can always like a mugger can tell by someone's physiology that they're a good victim, for want of a better expression. Highly manipulative people, narcissistic people. Within a couple of, I would even say, just by watching someone, they can pick out, okay, yeah, that's a possible um, codependent, whatever it might be. That makes sense.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, good. Anything else? Anyone else? No. Okay, cool. Let's crack on then. Eh? Okay, so three ways to silence the inner critic, or work with the inner critic, or learn from the inner critic, even, and a lot more if we've got time. So this is a very very easy exercise. Well, it's not even an exercise; a technique. Some might call it even a trick. And I learned this. Got to be 2005, at least. Um, and I I thought it was really cool when I first tried it, and it works. Now there are times in your life when you want the internal dialogue to stop just for maybe, and it might be while you're doing a particular process, while you're doing a particular activity, or or focusing, or you want to focus on something, you know. And this is a really, really easy and can be quite useful. So I don't know whether I said it before, but when we talk to ourselves, the neurological bias, if you like, the speech area of our brain, which is in the left hand side, that lights up, the Broca area, it's called, right? And we tend to when we talk to ourselves, even when we're reading, we sub vocalize. Our tongue moves in micromuscle movements. And just as a footnote, for those of you who know something about NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, originally it was a way of modeling excellence, and one of the first three models of excellence, for want of a better expression, was a hypnotherapist and a psychiatrist called Milton Erickson. Now, this guy, his results were phenomenal. 30,000 clients over 30 years. His success rate was out of this world. He really knew what he was doing. He would just talk to people. He's often said that he used to say to people, "Well, I just talk to people and they get better." He would use metaphor. He would use particular type of language pattern, deliberately ambiguous language, we'd call it. That's a story for another course, I suppose. Now, the original, when Richard Bandler, he was one of the creators of neuro-linguistic programming, he was the first to model this Milton Erickson guy, and he was allowed to sit with Milton Erickson while he was working with clients, with the permission of the clients, obviously. And he'd be sitting in the corner of the room, and all he would do was so vocalize everything Milton Erickson said. He didn't know why he was saying it. He would just so vocalize it. And over time, and again, depending on what stories you read and who you speak to, because of different reports, but I think it was let's say between 12 months and 18 months. Let's say 18 months, let's go right out there, yeah? After about 18 months of doing this daily, he was able to, to give you an example. Let's say he watched Milton Erickson work with people suffering from OCD. He would go out and find people who had OCD and just repeat what Erickson would say in a way that he would say it, right? And how he would say it. And he found that he would get the same results, or some, good results. He would get good results. He would help people. And where he took it a stage further, after a while, he would pick people who he'd not seen Milton Erickson work with, and say, almost as if you're like, okay, how would Milton Erickson, what would he say there? How would he talk? What kind of language patterns would he use? And he found that I think it's inductive learning, if you like. He found that he could get results with those as well. So he'd never actually seen Milton Erickson work with these people, but because of the constant sub-vocalization of the language patterns that he was using, he was able to generalize, make these generalizations and get results. All that to say, we sub-vocalize when we talk to ourselves. Micro movement muscles in the tongue and the throat. So let's just try this. Okay, so who has a particularly strong, well, it doesn't have to be in for this exercise. It doesn't have to be inner critic. It could be internal dialogue. Who has a particularly chatty internal dialogue? Oh yeah, Janet. Okay, what are you laughing at? Okay, try this. Right? Notice what you're saying to yourself in your head. We can all do this as a group. That's what you're saying to yourself, right? What I want you to do, and the number of ways of doing this, by the way. Well, let's go with the first one. I want you to relax your tongue and let it drop to the roof of your mouth So I dropped it, you know, unless you hang it upside down. Let your tongue drop to the floor, your mouth, to the bottom of your mouth. Right? Just allow it to soften. And I'm not going to do it now because I won't be able to talk. Just allow it to soften. You can relax your jaw, allow it to soften. Just slightly on your mouth. Allow it to soften. Imagine it just spreading out across the floor of your mouth, right? And just be aware of the sensations. Just allow it to soften. Yeah. And notice what happens to the internal dialogue. If anything, this works for me. It may not work for you. It might work for you. I don't know. It might take practice. Did anyone ever go and find it and notice a difference? For those of you who are not on camera, give us a thumbs up. For those of you who are on camera, did it work? Yeah, Simon. Yeah. I mean, oh, cool. Yeah.
I've used it before, Terry. If you don't mind me diving in. I've used it before, but I've used it where I was taught where you from a friend, you put your tongue in between your two teeth.
Yeah.
And it stops.
That was the next one.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Anytime.
Shut up now.
Do you want to run it? Do you want to run this session?
I've used that countless times. That really does work. Do you know what
I mean? Yeah. So, for instance, there's other ways, for instance, some people haven't got a sense of the tongue. Like they can't feel it. So, if you want to sort of tune it up, for want of a better expression, have a drink of water or something like that, or you just roll it around your mouth so you've got the sensations going, and then try it then, right? And as Carl very rightly said, right, the other way of doing this is to take the tip of your tongue and place it where the roof of your mouth meets the top of your two front teeth. And mute yourself, Janice. This is no laughing matter. Yeah, just soften your tongue, and where you place the tip of your tongue there. Now, okay, as a footnote, if you want to turn this into a relaxation process, you can do any of those two techniques with the tongue, right? But also, if you want to use it as a relaxation meditation, whatever you want to do, however you want to work it, right? I'll focus, look straight ahead. Allow yourself to go into peripheral vision, and breathe in through your nose, through your mouth, out through your nose, or in through your nose, out through your nose. But make sure your out breath is just that little bit longer than your in breath. So maybe if you breathe in for 4, breathe out for 6. Breathe in for 6, out for 8, or 7 even. But as long as it's longer. So those 3 things, soften the tongue by whichever option you choose. Going into peripheral vision. By peripheral vision. Does anyone not know what peripheral vision is, by the way? Just so I don't want to sort of. Okay. So focus on your camera. If you got a camera on your laptop, right? Just focus on your camera, right? Now, as you focus on your camera, you can be aware of what's behind it. You can be aware of what's to your left, what's to your right. Just while you focus on your camera, just be aware of, as far as you can, whatever's in your field of vision, as far as you can to the right, as far as you can to the left. That's peripheral. That's when you're taking all that in. That's your peripheral vision.
Okay, focusing without focusing. Yeah.
Yeah, like a soft focus. It is. Yeah. There's another neat trick, for want of a better expression, to go into peripheral vision. You get your 2 fingers, put them together like that. Look between your 2 fingers at, in this case, the camera on the monitor, and just be aware of your fingers as you focus on the camera. And you'll go into peripheral vision. Yeah. Just a little footnote there, an NLP footnote.
Can you pencil this down how this is written into the chat?
Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'll create a worksheet and send it over. How does that sound? Okay. So, did anyone try that, by the way? The tip of the tongue? Hi, Jackie.
Hi.
Anyone do the tip of the tongue? Thumbs?
What
Okay.
are you talking about?
I'm just going over what our first exercise, which is, we may have done this before, you know. Actually. Thank you. Excellent. The first exercise is have a nice cup of tea, right? A hot beverage. That's it. Well, actually, in a sense, yeah. So focus on the sensations on your tongue, having had that beverage. Yeah. Can you feel your tongue? Okay, please say yes. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Now, just soften your tongue and allow it to fall to the floor of your mouth. Yeah. Okay. Okay, and just put your attention on your tongue. So, what, if anything, has happened to your internal dialogue?
Quiet.
Quiet. And just to sort of finish off, because we'll close the loop if you like. There's another way of doing it. As our mate Carl said, I know he was just just put the tip of your tongue. Well, I've taught you this. I'm sure I've taught you this before. Put the tip of your tongue behind your teeth, where your teeth meet the roof of your mouth, and that's another way of doing it. Okay. Yeah. Again, you can't walk around like that all day. What you can do, but I doubt if you would. Right. But what you can do, if for instance you're particularly focusing on something, you're focused doing something, particular activity for a short period of time, it might help. Okay. So there's a first one. Okay. So where are we? Let's see if we can get this going. All right. Now, I wasn't going to include this exercise, but I want to put it in just to give you an experience of what the dissociation. So again, you've got a worksheet for this, and again, you're going to get the recording, so you go with this as often as you like, so that you get the right. You can practice the session. Take no notice of the thing that says there, worksheet 3. There's no numbers on it. I only decided to put this in last minute. So this is what I want you to do, and this is called the VK dissociation process, right? V, the visual, K, the feeling. This process was originally designed to separate whatever feeling you have from a particular event. So let's say, for instance, you've got a phobia of dogs, and you can remember when you were 7, you got bitten by a dog, right? And that memory, when you think about it, well, as what can happen if there's enough emotional impact to that event, it can generalize out to all dogs all the time. Some people can't look at pictures of dogs, can't without breaking into a panic or an anxiety, anxiety. So it can generalize out in all forms. This process is really, really useful for separating that feeling from the original event, so that it can generalize out into the now. I hope that makes sense. Now, we're not here at the moment to cure phobias. I just wanted to show you the process so that it's a setup for the next set of exercises, if that makes sense. Okay, so just close your eyes. Get yourself comfortable, close your eyes. And I want you to imagine you're in a cinema, in a cinema of your own choosing. It could be one that you've been in before. It could be one that you imagine that you can create yourself, and you can put whatever you want in that cinema, whatever makes you feel better. Right? And I want you to imagine you're sitting there in front of the cinema screen, a big cinema screen. Yeah. What I want you to do, I want you to think of maybe something in the past. If you can't think of anything, don't worry about it. Just follow along with the process. But think of something in the past. Now, when you think about it, it's mildly unpleasant. Enough for you to notice, but not enough for you to cause you any real upset. So on a subjective scale, 10 is intense and 0 is nothing. Make it about a 4 or a 5. Okay? Think of that event if you can. Right? Now, what I want you to do, I want you to go back to that event. And I want you to create a still image of you when everything was all before the event happened and you were perfectly safe, everything was okay. I want you to create a still picture of you when you were safe and put it on the cinema screen. So you got one picture, picture 1. When you've done that, again, I want you to fade that picture out. Now, I'm walking through this because I know you're going to get the recording and you can slow it down, you can go back, you can do this in your own time, okay? But because of the time restrictions, I'm doing this as a group. Right? So that's why I'm sort of walking through it. So you've got one picture there. Now, regarding the event, there'll be a time after the event when you'd gone through what you'd gone through and you'd come out okay, you're perfectly safe, and it was over, right? So I want you to create a second picture. And that second picture is of you again after the event when it's all over and you realize that you're perfectly safe and you're okay. And when you've got that, fade it out. Now, what you should have now are 2 pictures, like a sandwich. One before the event when you were okay, and one after the event when you're okay. Now, this is what I want you to do. Again, there's so many different ways of doing this, but this is just a demonstration, just to give you a taste of what we're doing. So later on, what I want you to do, I want you to bring the first picture up. And when I say go, I want you to imagine you've got a remote control. And I want you to press the remote control fast forward. So it goes from picture 1 to picture 2 in 1 or 2 seconds, just like that. Right? So go. So you should now be on picture 2. Okay. Now, I want you to fade picture 2 out, bring picture 1 up again, and do it again, only this time fast. Just get a sense of the whole thing from begin, start to finish, over in a second. Go. Bam, bam, bam. Okay, now leave picture 2 up, and this time I want you to run it backwards from picture 2 to picture 1. So you see the whole thing happening backwards in seconds again. 2 to 1, go. Fade picture 1 out, bring picture 2 up again. Backwards again, bump. 1, 2, bam. Fast as you can. The faster you do this, the better it works. Okay, and do it 5 times yourself now, just for practice. So you bring picture 2 up, fast backwards to picture 1, fade it out, bring 2 up again, fast backwards again, a backwards loop, bam, 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 5 times, almost 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and finish on 1. Okay. Now, whatever. Well, I hope you remember what number you gave it. What number is it now? Is it the same or is it decreased? Anyone got any feedback for me?
Hi Terry. I think if I've can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I think if I did it properly, it feels much calmer.
Well, then you did it properly.
Yeah. Okay, so it feels less intense,
Yes.
and a little bit calmer. So I'd say the numbers, like, yeah, the number went down. It's not as frightening.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. Cool.
Again, that's good work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, this was a sort of a general one. You can use. I can use it. I've used it for many things, but I just wanted to get you used to that process. And as you get practicing, you practice it, you can find out yourself what it works for. And in all honesty, you can't really get that wrong. The only thing I would say do not do, ever do, is run it forwards. Keep running forwards. Mind you, you're not going to go that far anyway. But sometimes I will ask people to associate into the film. I would only ask them to run it backwards then. You would never run it forwards in that position, right? So, but we're not doing that, so don't worry about it. Yeah. Great, Alicia. Nice one. Anyone else? No? Okay, fine.
Yeah, I had a very weak event, let's say, and it disappeared.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah. So question is that we don't focus on the event at all, right? We only focus on before and after and before, right? So the event is complete, is never being taken into consideration as such, no?
It's not so much the content of the event, what happened in the event. See, here's the thing, and you may well have heard this in some way, shape, or form. It's not the event that causes the trauma or the upset or stress, we say, right? It's your perception. Does that make sense? Some people can, for instance, many years ago, well, not that many years ago, about 8 years ago, up to 8 years ago, I was dealing with this exclusively with people who'd been in accidents, and they would be suffering from PTSD, and he found out at times CPTSD I came across, and so some people would be in what would be called a supermarket trolley bash, where they would just sort of, the cars would tap. You're like, there was no real damage done to the car, no real damage to them, but the shock was that much that and you know what, I'm not getting in a car again. I can't get in a car again. Others, and I know because I've worked with them, they've been in cars that spun. And they got out of the car and gone, and within a day they're back in the car. So that's what you see what I mean. Those events, not the events, it's what it means to you. For a lot of people, it was their first taste of mortality, should we say? So all that to say, yeah, for me, it disrupts the structure of the event. You can't quite get it back again.
Good things you say. Very, very interesting as well. The perception thing. And in the technique, we only have before and after, being okay, and we don't focus on the event as such at all, right? We just like blip, 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 blip over it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
If you're going to try this yourself, again, practice it. Be careful what you use it with. Does that make sense? Don't pick something that's really, really traumatic until you know the process, or get someone to help you with it who knows what they're doing. I have to say that. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay, so Yali, Yael, did you have your hand up?
I did, yes. I had a question. So I noticed when I was doing it, I would picture the first event, my eyes would, even though they're closed, would look to the left. And then when I did the after event, they would look to the right. So I was doing left, right with my eyes. And then I thought, is this similar to maybe like EMDR? Or it's not?
It's not meant to be.
God. Okay.
But
Oops.
since you mention it, it wouldn't surprise me because there's something else that I do with clients called IEMT, right? And it's the basic pattern is you move your eyes from left to right continuously while thinking of a particular memory, right? Again, there are many sort of explanations of why it works and how it works. For me, it just breaks up the structure. You can't quite get it back again. So yeah, in some ways, yeah, yeah, it will work. I would imagine it will work similar to not so much EMDR, but certainly in my experience with IEMT, all these letters. God, I think I wouldn't be surprised if it has an effect. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna Google that IEMT. Thank you.
Yes. Right. I like to call IEMT EMDR would go faster stripes because apparently it's quicker. Simple as that. And I'm getting a shocked emoji from why there? What's going on there?
That's me. It's my computer and my phone.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, elegant. Yeah. Okay. Sounds great.
I thought it was
That's cool. It's faster.
good. Okay, should we crack on? Okay, again, I wasn't going to add this, but I thought, yeah, I'm going to add this because I think it's useful. If we're going to be working with the inner critic, we want to have access to some really good, strong states where we really feel, are our optimal best. And again, some of you know this old standard, but it's a great one nevertheless. So again, the point of this session is I want to give you as many processes as I possibly can to practice. So what I'd like you to do is close your eyes again. And you can be in the same cinema you like, or you can pick another cinema. You can go to the Odeon, you can go to the View, whatever you want to do. Yeah? Or it can be a cinema of your own creation, your own imagination. In past in various sessions, some of the people I've worked with, they've created their own cinema with things around them that support them, like memorabilia that support them, that create happy memories. So it's their own personal cinema room. That makes sense. So okay, close your eyes. I'm gonna go along with this. Close your eyes, and you're in that cinema. Now, what I want you to do, I want you to look at that screen again, and I want you to see yourself, an image of yourself in your ideal state, your optimal state, whatever that might mean to you. Now, you might think to yourself, I haven't got an optimal state. I don't know what an optimal state is. Well, project an image there that what you would look like if you did, manipulate your physiology. How would you be standing if you felt fantastic? If you don't have an optimal state to draw on. It's a representation. That's all, right? Notice as you look at yourself on the cinema screen, I want you to notice what your physiology is like. How you breathe, how are you breathing, how are you moving? If you're talking, what are you saying to yourself? Just notice that for a second. Now, when I say go, what I want you to do, I want you to step into the screen and into the skin of you. Step into the body of you in that optimal state and feel it and see it from your own eyes. Go. Notice what it feels like to be in that optimal state, high performance state, however you want to phrase it, where you feel unstoppable, confident, whatever it might be. Right? Notice where it starts in your body, where that feeling starts in your body, and give it a colour, any colour you want. And notice where that feeling is and the colour is, and allow that colour to flood into every single cell of your body. So your whole body resonates with that colour. Feeling your absolute best. Now, from that position there, I want you to create another cinema screen and another image of you where you're at your higher state, an even more optimal state. Again, what's it feel? What's it look like? What do you look like? What's your physiology? What clothes are you wearing? What are you saying? What language are you using? Are you talking to yourself? What's happening? Right? All these things. And when I say go, I want you to step into that skin of you. So you're seeing that from your own eyes. Now, again, notice where that feeling, that optimal state starts in your body and feels in your body, and allow it to flood into every single cell and give that a color. It can be the same color, it can be a different color. It's entirely up to you, but let it flow into every single cell so that every single cell resonates with that color and that feeling. And one more time, I want you to create another cinema screen. And on that cinema screen is another version of you in an even higher optimal state. And when I say go, I want you to step into that skin and see it from your own eyes again, once more. Give it a color. Let that color flood into every single cell. Let that feeling flood into every single cell so the whole body resonates with this optimal state. And when you're ready, I want you to press your thumb and your forefinger together. I personally use thumb, forefinger, and middle finger. It's using more. Press your thumb and forefinger together so it becomes an NLP, what we call an anchor. Press it together. Feel that feeling. Press the thumb and forefinger together. And before it dissipates, separate your finger and thumb. Okay, and come back to the original seat with that feeling. And open your eyes when you're ready. What did that feel like? Anyone? It was all right. Felt fantastic. Felt worse. What? Feedback, please.
Well, it felt very peaceful to me.
Great. So you asleep there, Jackie?
I just,
You want a little kick?
I just stretched out while I was doing that.
Okay, yeah, whatever. Whatever works. Whatever works. One definition of NLP actually is whatever works.
Yeah.
Good, peaceful, excellent.
Yeah, it was beautiful, you know. I was able to go into these different states, like get higher and higher state. I've been practicing that with the multiple switch. I love that.
Good, brilliant. Zaytuna, did you have your hand up?
Yes, no, I'm not. It's Janet have a hands, but I can share. Yeah, it was very unusual, very empowering.
Good.
It was very interesting.
That's its function. You know, and we can use those states anytime you want. That's in your toolbox.
Do you use this for come back to the states? Do you use this feeling?
You practice in, you embed it in. Yeah, so get used to every time you do that, get into that state, do that, you know.
Okay.
I use
these two.
And index finger and middle finger.
Yeah.
Only because it gives me more surface area.
And you can come back for the states.
Yeah.
Just touching this.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And if it doesn't work, you practice it again. So every time you do that. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Janet?
I didn't do it to the letter.
Yeah.
But the second one, you know, when you said fill it with a colour, I filled it with every colour going and it exploded. because it was that good.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was going to say, was it nice? Was it useful?
It was amazing.
Fantastic. See, now again, you practice. How many times you practice that? About twice, something like that, 3 times. You're getting
Well,
it
I
now.
didn't have an imagination yesterday, and I've got one today.
Well, yeah. Did you? Oh, glad you brought it with you. It's always useful. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So let's move on. Okay. So dealing with internal dialogue. I'm going to go to. I'm actually going to keep the explanation down to a minimum. I'm just going to give you the exercises because I never realized that it was so late. But I don't mind staying behind a bit if everyone else is okay, or if I've got someone to talk to, anyone, I'll keep recording till we finish. So again, this is a really very simple NLP process exercise. So think of originally it was created to deal with criticism from another person, right? So let's say you work and you get some feedback off another person, or you get criticized by another person, and it has an effect. Typically, when you get negative feedback or you talk to yourself in a negative way, it creates a feeling, an unpleasant feeling. Does that make sense? So this is another way of dissociating the feeling from the event or from the words. Yeah, does that make sense? Okay, so this is what I want you to do. Now, I realize that we're on Zoom and some of you can't do this, but when you're practicing this, practice this at home. Instead of don't do this at home, do this at home, right? I would like to stand up, right? So if you can stand up, great, fine, you can do it, right? One of the aids to visualization is to stand up, lift your head, maybe 45 degrees. So you're looking at maybe 45 degrees.
You want us to stand up now, right?
If you can, Simon, yeah. If you can't, don't worry about it. Okay. But when you're practicing at home, or after the session, you can do, right? So stand up, take space up, right? You know, use your physiology. And again, 45 degrees, look up, maybe 45 degrees, whatever it might be. Yeah. Now, I want you to, now you can do this any of either of these ways, right? You know, this way or another way. You can personify the inner critic and imagine that the inner critic in front of you. Okay? By personifying, imagine it's a person or an entity, whatever you want to do it, right? Right? Or you can do it another way. You can imagine a person who's given you negative feedback in the past, and when you think of that negative feedback, it gives you a feeling that you don't want. Is that making sense so far? Right, now, this is what I want you to do, and we'll practice this. Right, so what I want you to do, have that person or that personification of the inner critic standing in front of you, and above his or her head, I want you to put a big screen, cinema screen. If you want a cinema screen, it's up to you. Fine, but a big screen, large enough so that when I'm talking, because as I'm talking now, I want you to put the words that I'm saying on the cinema screen. So as I'm saying these words, practice putting them on the cinema screen, on the screen. Does that make sense? And you should see, does that make sense? And you should see, does that make sense? Right. So see my words, every word that I'm saying, as I'm saying it, just like subtitles, if you like, on the screen. Now, I'm hoping everyone's got a sense of that, because that's what we're going to be doing. So again, typically when we get feedback or we give ourselves feedback that doesn't have the desired effect on our physiology, we want to separate that feeling from the event, from the person, from the words, or whatever it might be. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to try this. I want you to go over maybe a particular strand of self-criticism that you give yourself, or someone else has given you. Whatever works for you, you can do these anyway, right? And I want you to put the words on the screen. As you hear the words, project the words onto the screen as they come up above the person's head. Notice what happens to the feeling of anything. And you can put it around in a loop, see what happens. Okay. I mean, you can spend a lot more time on that when we've finished the session, so you can come back now. Did anybody notice a reduction in the feeling? Rosemary?
I think I didn't get it. You meant the words, does that make sense? Does that make sense to come up?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, and with the, if it is a particular thing that you criticize yourself for, you keep saying it over and over and over in your head, right? Have that come up. Or there's a particular person.
I got it. Yeah, got it.
Good. Okay. Rosemary, you got your hand up. Is that it? Yes.
Yeah. I just wanted to clarify the process. Just to confirm. So you put, does that make sense? And then you put the text of what a person would say, like the insult. So you have the challenge sentence. Does that make sense? And then you have the insult.
Oh, sorry. I should have made it more clear. I should have become. When I was saying put my words up on the screen, it was just to give you a practice session of what you want to do. Yeah. Then after that, you put the words up of the person, like whether it be your inner critic or a particular person that, you know, when they gave you that negative feedback, whatever it might be, you put their words up on the screen above their head.
Is that to make it belong to them and not so I don't have to take it in?
No, it's to separate the feeling from the words, separate the feeling from the words, and then you can look at the words and decide on what information is useful to you and what you're going to take in and what information is not useful to you.
Okay, so you're filtering it through. You see their unkind words or insult, whatever their nasty words, and then you ask yourself. But you can ask yourself, like your example kind of fits in terms of just saying, okay, well, does that make sense? Is it useful to me? Is it true?
Yeah, that's absolutely
what's the
spot
value
on. Yeah,
of this word? Is it worthy of even thinking of? Okay, I get it. Thank you.
Yeah, brilliant. And Zanjuna, yeah.
Yeah, I just also to verify after Rosemary. When I stand up and I watch the screen and a person, the words come up on the screen, the feeling what I feel is the usual feeling what I feel when I have this inner critic, or they tell me. And in this moment, I have to question my thoughts about this screen subtitles, correct?
Yeah.
And I must,
You filtered it out. I think another useful way of thinking about it is you start to use critical thinking against the feedback, or you apply critical thinking to the feedback. Does that make sense? You know.
Yeah, I mean,
is there anything useful here? You know, or is it just, for instance, I'm sure we've come across people like this. I know I have in my lifetime. You know, what most people regard as feedback, it's usual judgmental. It's usually evaluations. It's usually interpretations. You know, there's never, very rarely is it pure sensory-based, evidence-based feedback. You did X, Y, Z. You know, it's either you're bad, you're good, whatever it be. So you look at that and you bring it up, and you know, again, there's two functions here to separate the feeling, the negative feeling from the feedback itself, right, from the words itself, and to go, okay, this feedback, is it useful? Is it true? Is there anything of use here I can take out?
It is a sort of a meta position out of the situation, no?
Meta position. Simon, have you been dabbling in NLP?
Yes, but I need a refreshment, as you see.
Yes, it's a meta position. Yeah.
What does
Nice
it
one.
mean meta position?
It's standing back, you know, like meta, above. Yeah.
This is why you put your heads up to see it and to separate you as a looking over.
That's one of the reasons, but the main reason for doing that is it aids visualization. People, when generally, again, it's a generalization, and it works for most. If it doesn't work for you, don't do it. Or if it enhances you, do it, right? But people, when we're in sort of visual mode, for want of a better expression, we tend to breathe higher in our chest. We tend to look up. Our physiology changes, right? The same with people who, generally speaking, people have rapid internal dialogue, always talking to themselves or thinking pitches all the time. Their movements tend to reflect that. You know, he says doing this because I do talk with my hands quite a lot. So that's the other reason as well. It's an aid, you like, to it.
Okay, thank you.
Pleasure. Okay, so let's crack on. Okay, this is chugging along nicely, actually. Along a little bit behind schedule. I'll know what to leave out next time. So, despite the name, this is a bit of a mouthful. The characterological adjectives model. It's part of something called the New Code of NLP. But I don't know, Simon, have you ever come across it? It's just think of NLP. It can get very, yeah. It's all one thing. So again, we're going to be closing our eyes and visualizing once more. Okay, so close your eyes, right? Now, again, you can use a particular person who you have a challenge with, who's given you, who's criticized you in the past and caused you to feel other than what you'd want to feel. Or you can personify the inner critic and do it that way, right? Now, what I want you to do, I want you to imagine this time you're in a theatre, and again, you're on the balcony. You're in the balcony looking down at the stage, and on the stage, there's the person who is the criticizer. I'll use the inner critic, and I mean, when I say the inner critic, I mean either your personification of the inner critic or the person who gave you that criticism and makes you feel other than what you'd like to feel. Okay, and that person's there, right? And that person is saying what they usually say. It's the inner critic. It could be a regular thing that you say to yourself that doesn't make you feel very good. It's a person, could be this regular thing that they're always saying, and you feel criticized, you feel whatever it might be, right? Now, also on the stage, right next to that person, is a person who looks and sounds exactly like you. Exactly like you. Right? And notice the two of you there in that dance, right? So I want you to look at the person who we'll call it the inner critic, right? And just using two words, I want you to sum up what effect, what they're like, what it's like, So it could be vicious, nasty. It could be demeaning, whatever it might be. But sum that inner critic up in 2 words, 1 or 2 words. Okay. Now, that person who looks and sounds like you, exactly like you, right? I want you to sum up that person's behavior in 2 words. It could be fawning, it could be scared, whatever it might be. It's up to you. Fine. Right. Now, if you haven't guessed already, that person who looks and sounds exactly like you is you. Right? So I want you to come down. I want you to imagine coming down from the balcony and standing right next to the person who looks and sounds exactly like you. They can't see you, but you can see them. Right? And I want to ask you, that person who looks and sounds exactly like you, what resources could they use right now? What do they need right now that would help them deal with that criticism in a more useful, resourceful way? It could be a state. It could be, I don't know. It could be it could be knowledge. It could be anything. Just notice, what does that person want and need? By the way, those exercises that we've just done, like the optimal state exercise and the dissociation exercise and the previous exercise, all those count as well as resources. So you can use any of them. So it's entirely up to you. The world's your oyster. And when you're happy with it, I want you to step into the skin of the person who looks and sounds like you with those resources and notice what happens. Now step outside. And now sum up your behavior once more, that behavior, the new behavior, sum that up in 2 words. Now, although I haven't put this on the worksheet, it's a little bit of an added extra, if you like. I want you to, if it's possible, it may not be possible, but if it is possible, I want you to imagine the next time that you see this person or you hear this inner critic and they're saying the same thing. And I want you to imagine the next time that happens with your new resources, what's changed, those different resources. What's changed? What's different? And when you're ready, open your eyes. I know it was a little bit long, that one, but it is again, I've used this before over the years, and some people find it really useful. Any feedback? Not criticism, feedback. Rosemary.
Hi Terry. Yeah. So I found myself, I like that. That was really helpful. I ended up becoming much larger than the critic.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. The critic was reduced. So that's helpful. Thank you.
Lovely. Yeah. Janet.
It was forget to unmute. That was the really good, that one, because it got me to a dark place, the emotion. But the word I used was prepared.
Oh, okay.
And aware. So when I was prepared
and aware.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Because I never expect. And it goes downhill. And in that, I expected it. I was aware it was going to happen, and I was okay.
Great. So we know that works for you. So your homework or your mission, Jim, should you accept it, is I want you to do that every day. I want you to practice that every day.
Okay.
Here's the thing. I can't remember the book now. I know I mentioned this before, so someone might tell me. There's a similar process. Well, not similar, but it is a very short visualization process that this guy teaches, and he was relating a time that he talked to a woman who was going through a particularly nasty divorce, and at the time of the divorce was at its height, she was doing this exercise 30 times a day, every day, right? But here's the point, not the exercise we just done, the exercise that he showed her. Here's the point. It really helped her. That was the feedback. It really helped her, get through what she was getting through, right? But also, some people, once or twice, they've got it, but for some people, they need to practice. Yeah. So just an aside there, a footnote. Who else has raised their hand there? Obi.
Hi.
Hi.
It was very interesting because the moment you asked to stand on the balcony and put the critic on the stage, I immediately had to laugh because it really looked like a performance. And then I immediately saw like, wow, this is just a big cry for attention.
Okay.
So it was like I saw through also why the critic was so critical. And I also saw when I came down to the stage and I stand next to myself, I saw like I just need connection to myself.
Yeah.
So inner connection were the two words for me. Inner connection.
Inner connection. Right.
Yes.
Brilliant.
And then the act of the other person just belongs to the other person. Has nothing to do with me.
Absolutely. That sounds like quite a few of you got something out of that one. Which I'm always pleased. It doesn't matter how long I've been doing this. I've been doing this 20 years. I still get a buzz when people go, yeah. So if there are no more questions, I'll crack on.
One very short question.
Yes.
I recently listened to a conversation that I recorded with my partner to just check my perception later on how it went.
Yes, I thoroughly recommend that.
When I listened to that again, it was awful because I felt like really tense and cold. Can I do this, what we do here, this one or the exercise before, listening to this to immunize myself, if that works in English, against what happens and the sound of her voice.
It's a very good way of putting it, actually. Immunize yourself, because that's what you need, isn't it? You're immune from the feeling. So if I understand you correctly, you're listening to you listen to the recording, and at the words come on the screen.
For example, I have the stage thing and she's talking and I'm listening and I'm supporting myself there with what is needed.
Yes. Brilliant. Absolutely. Yeah. Great. Yeah. That's a great example of utilizing what we've just done there. Here's the thing with what we've just done there. You're limited by your imagination. Once you've got the process of the association, you can play with it and go, okay, well, does this work? What I would say, is when you're testing things out, testing things out, don't pick anything big. But yeah, don't pick anything big. Keep it small till you get to know what you're doing, and then get stuck in, as they say. Okay. Okay, so now this is a short one. Sentence stems. I use this quite a lot. A sentence stem is a beginning. Well, that's what it says on the tin, I suppose. It's a beginning of a sentence. And what I want you to do is, again, I can organize a worksheet for this. You start off a sentence, and then you finish the sentence off in as often as many times as you possibly can. So the sentence stem might be, if I was to work with my inner critic, or if I was to refuse to believe anything my inner critic says, finish the sentence off. And finish the sentence off as many times as you possibly can. Does that make sense? What have you said there? So you got the beginning of the sentence and you finish the sentence off as many times as you possibly can. Here's the point. And this is where you would take it a stage further if you wish. Look at the answers. Look at the answers and ask yourself, okay, well, how can I create that now? How can I do that now? So it might be, if I refused point blank to listen to my inner critic, I would go to a dance class. You might be short on confidence or whatever that, you know. That's actually an example from a very old client, is that right? She wanted to do something that was more social and got her out to meet people, but she just didn't have that confidence to go. So very quickly, what we did, we picked a number of classes, or she picked a number of classes, narrowed that set of classes down to two things that she might just have a little go at. Let's see if she's right. She narrowed that, of the two of them, she picked one that, you know, oh, I could enjoy this. And she did that class for a number of years, actually, until COVID came in, actually. So it sort of broke a stride. But the point is, whatever the answers are, you go, okay, so how can I create this for myself? How can I do this for myself? And ask yourself, what if I'm going to do this, whatever the answer is, what would be the very first step? What would be the very first step? And take that step. Make sense? Not nonsense.
Sorry, Terry.
Yeah.
Maybe because my not perfect English. Yeah, I just I mean I create a sentence. Sorry, but better than your Russian is for sure. Is a sentence start with, for example, if I would do not believe to what my inner critics say,
yeah,
blah blah blah, I would be whatever.
Well,
how it is.
Again, I that's why I deliberately stopped it. Is if I was not to believe what my inner says, right? If I ended it with I would, it sends you in a particular direction.
Okay.
So if I end it where it ends, you've got more. You know, you might say, life would be easier.
Yeah,
that could be an answer, right? So let's use that one. Like if I refuse to believe what my inner critic said, life would be so much easier, right? So look at that answer and go, okay, well, what do I mean by that? What if I wanted my life to be that much just a little bit easier? What would I stop doing? What would I start doing? Those of you who know me from coaching, my favorite question is, okay, what would you stop doing? What would you start doing if you had this elusive state that you think you need before you start doing what you say you're going to do? Sometimes we put the cart before the horse. Yeah, so sometimes we need to put the cart before the horse, right? A lot of people say, well, when I feel this way, I'll do X, Y, Z. When I feel confident, I'll do X, Y, Z. When I feel motivated, I'll do the washing up, right? Here's the thing. If you're waiting for the state to come, very rarely. But if you start, let's use, if I felt motivated, I'd do the washing up. If you go, okay, well, you know what, I'm just going to one foot in front of the other. I'm going to go to the sink and I'm going to wash one dish. And I'm going to just pay attention to it. Then one more, then one more, then one more. Does that make sense? A lot of people think they need motivation. It's not about motivation. It's just doing, really. Rosemary.
Yes. Just to kind of follow up on that question, because that's a good question that was asked. So you don't want to say, you don't want to start with "I would be something." I would be grateful.
You can do. What I'm saying is, I didn't put "I would" because it presupposes a particular type of answer. So I've ended it as if I was not to believe my inner critic, you can put "I would," whatever you want.
Yeah.
But you can also do it, create a lot of more answers without using "I would" as well. So I'm giving you more choice, more flexibility.
Okay. Like life would be better, the sun would shine. Okay. So either way, it's not like excluding an approach. It's just that you get more
Yeah.
Is it that if you just say life would be easier, then you can go into another sort of set of questions to how
I'm making it more inclusive by leaving out "I would." You can use "I would."
Okay.
As long as along with other things. Okay, so okay, we're going to finish off with this. This was a sort of a last minute. When I say a last minute thing, I mean emotional freedom technique. I've been teaching it and using it for quite a few years now, and again, quite a few people find it really useful. It's not NLP; it's EFT, right? It's a quick and easy healing technique. Some people put it in the category of energy psychology. Some people describe it as acupuncture without needles. It's tapping. Yeah. It connects the mind and body to manipulate state. Works particularly well with NLP. Okay. So if you like, this is the whole premise of EFT. The creator of it, for want of a better expression, the premise is that when we have a trauma or when something happens to us, it disrupts the flow of energy in the body, right? It blocks the energy in the body. When we tap on particular energy meridians, it restores the flow of energy in the body. Now, regardless of your belief system, I don't know whether that's true. I don't care. All I know is that when I've used it, and people I've worked with used it, it's made a difference. I personally, I think what happens is, well, in my experience, what happens is whatever this person taps on, the negative emotion or feeling, whatever it be, however they represent it in their heads, it changes the structure. It changes how they represent it in the head. So the feeling changes. That's the best way I can describe it, actually. So, and they're the tapping points. I've been sent you some of them before. So to finish off, right? Let's do a round of tapping. So think of what it feels like when you experience the inner critic, or you remember the criticism that you had of that particular person, and give it a number from 1 to 10. 1 being, it doesn't bother me in the slightest. 10, it's horrible. Pick something around 6 or 7. Yeah. And what I'd like you to do is, when I get this out the way, can you all see me? Yeah, someone's done EFT before, haven't they? Right. This is called what we're going to go through is a setup statement, and this is called the karate chop point. It's one of the major points, apparently. Well, not apparently, it is. Right. So keep tapping. So tap on that edges there, right? And you can say, if you want to, you can mute your mic. But if you want to, you can say out loud, even though I have this critical voice inside me, I deeply and completely accept myself. You don't have to believe this, by the way. Just say it, right? Even though I often criticize myself harshly, I choose to love and accept who I am. Now, the eyebrow point, where the eyebrow meets the bridge of the nose, there. Tap. I feel overwhelmed by my own criticism. That voice judges me. Side of the eye. It's hard to accept myself when I'm so critical. I hear this criticism in my head, under the eye. I'm always telling myself I'm not good enough. This constant internal criticism, under the nose. I acknowledge this critical part of me. I recognize this voice comes from a place of fear. Chin point, and the little dinge there, yeah? It's okay to be imperfect. Maybe I can be more forgiving of myself. Collarbone, right on the collarbone there, with that little notch there, right? I choose to see myself with kindness. I'm learning to replace criticism with compassion. Under the arm. Now, if you think, go under the armpit, drop down 4 inches and tap there. I'm releasing these harsh words I tell myself. I'm letting go of the need to criticize myself. Now, on here, you've got top of the head. Now, you've got a choice here. I particularly like, I could use the top of the head, or you can use this part here, just above the breastbone there, right? So, I'm worthy of love and respect, despite my flaws. I choose to fill my mind with positive affirmations of myself. Okay, so you could do another round on that. We can do that when we're outside the session. Did anyone experience a drop in the number? Maybe being a bit too quick. Did everyone do it?
It was too quick for me to get into something.
Okay, that's fine. Let's Obi.
Hi. Yeah, I have another protocol. It's almost the same, but it's also this basic protocol. And I learned it from you actually, but the EFT we used in the session. And it was very helpful for me. So I looked up like this very easy protocol, the basic protocol on the internet.
Yeah.
Just slightly different. And I also did some courses from Richard, of course. And for me, it feels like EFT is also very much connected to the emotional literacy.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's what I realized this week. And I just repeat the same sentence on all the spots. And I try to, with every second round, like very closely feel if the words are still correct. And sometimes the sentence just changes a little bit. I have to change it a little bit. So I stay very closely to what I feel, what I really, really feel.
Okay.
And I have for me, it works really very powerful. And I realize also that it is connected to this emotional literacy, because that's also just the acknowledgement. And then for me, it really feels like just opens up. Your feelings are unfolding and opening up, and then it starts to flow, like you say, like the energy starts to flow.
I'm interested. What you said? I taught you a technique. What was it? Can you...
Yeah, the EFT. It's the same.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, sorry. I thought you said I'd done something different.
No, the protocol I found online.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit. It's like the karate chop point, and then on the top of the head, and then the eyebrow. So it's just a little bit different, and I didn't even read it. I just wanted to know the points, and I knew the sentences, and then I started to do it a little bit the way I felt was good for me, like, you know, because you created now like different sentences, but I use like exactly the same sentence on every spot.
Good. Okay.
And,
Cool.
but yeah, it works very strong, very strong.
Marvelous. So, and we've got another one here, right? This is more in tune to installing the inner coach. So, again, we might as well, if you're in mind to, just go along with it, right? And we'll finish off here. Yeah. So, again, the karate chop point. Even though I sometimes doubt my abilities, I deeply and completely accept myself and open myself to positive guidance from within. Even though it's hard to believe in myself at times, I choose to nurture my inner coach and trust my potential. I often hesitate to trust my instincts. I'm aware of my past self-doubts. It's challenging to silence the inner critic, but I'm ready to listen to my inner coach. I acknowledge my fears and uncertainties. I accept my worries and choose to grow beyond them. I welcome positive self-talk. I am open to the wisdom within me. I am capable of great things. I trust in my ability to make wise decisions. Collarbone. I choose to encourage myself with kindness and support every day. I'm becoming more confident in my inner wisdom. Under the arm, again 4 inches from the armpit. I'm releasing self-doubt and embracing self-assurance. I empower myself with affirmations of strength and capability. Top of the head. Or oh man, I done spoilt the flow. Top of the head or the breast there. I am guided by a wise and loving inner coach. I trust my inner coach to lead me to my highest potential. Now, generally, you would do 2 rounds of those. That's why when I'm teaching it, I tend to recommend 2 rounds. So that's something, again, you can practice. So that's about it. Just a few quick questions, I don't mind. Rosemary, if you got a question there, is that a question?
No, I was just applauding. Thank you so much, Terry. This was really super helpful. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Brilliant. I'm glad it's helpful.
Yeah, I can say the same. Very good. I have a question. The last thing is the last 2 slides is just to go through them like you did. You read the sentences, go to the point, and just to strengthen the whole holistic thing. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, and you can create your own sentences as well. Play with it yourself. Right.
Yeah. Thank you. Very good.
Pleasure.
Questions, Terry. When I have inner critic, I mean, talking to me, what I want to ask is, I lost the sentence of that. Wait a second, I will come up with it.
Rocking dots, hello. While waiting for the tuna.
Yeah, I'm just catch up because I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just catch my thoughts. Yeah, are the negative thoughts, because they can be as a pattern, you know, they are as a pattern in the head, and maybe they not from someone, but in a critic as well. What is if you catch them and they have like a pattern, it's come up with this particular situation in life. What is exercise you from all of 4 exercises what we have? you recommend to do as on the go, like on the go, because it's EFT, if you somewhere in it, I don't know, in a meeting or in a public place, EFT is a good one to do the home as but which one will be sentences stem probably, yeah, because you can do it in the head as which one?
If I understand you correctly, if you're out and about and you've got the internal dialogue going, the critical internal dialogue going, which is the one that you use, yeah, there's a number of things. Yeah, you can I haven't taught on this session actually, but you can think critically towards it, critical thinking. So start challenging it. Well, is that true? Really? Is this working for me? Is this useful? Right. Interestingly enough, you can sort of use EFT. You can. I mean, I've sat in a cafe and done that. Now it might look a little bit weird. I don't think it does actually, because I don't think but it's worked. In fact, that was my introduction to EFT back in 2003. A friend of mine who practiced EFT. I was going through a particularly sort of, critic was going like the clappers, should we say, over a certain situation at that time. It was quite vicious, and he said, I was sitting in a cafe and she was saying, do this, just do this. And there's no particular order to it. So I was sitting there in the local cafe doing that. And I never got locked up. It was fine, right? But the funny thing was, actually, never realized, I never thought about this until just right now. What happened was the internal dialogue stopped. And I had an image of it. Again, it might be, I think we all know what a cassette tape is. We're all of an age where we know what a cassette tape is, right? Do you know when you buy a cheap one, it gets chewed up in the tape? I had an image of that. Like it's, and I just started laughing. Now, again, it didn't solve the problem that was causing me the thing, but it put me in a better state to attend to the problem. Does that make sense? So you could also use the optimal state exercise. So any of them. Okay. So
thank you very much.
Good, thank you. If there are no more questions, I'm going to walk my dog.
Thank you so much, Terry. That was a really good night.
It's not a euphemism; it's an actual fact. I've got to walk my dog.
Thanks, Terry.
Thanks,
Thank
Terry.
you.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
I look forward to the recording because I missed the whole thing. I got shut out. Technical difficulties, but
oh right. Well, it's all recorded, so you'll get it.
I'll listen in. I tried. Bye.
Thank you very much.